Thanks so much, Monica, and thanks for inviting me. These are clearly, very challenging times for education, but as we can see here in this panel, it's also the time of both extraordinary, technological and social innovation in education. In a way, this is the moment ESD has always prepared us for. But at the same time, I think the current COVID crisis is just a massive amplifier and accelerator of many developments that have been with us for some time. Globalization, technological change have connected people, countries, continents in ways that have just dramatically improved both our individual and our collective potential. But as we've seen, the same forces have made our world more volatile, more ambiguous, more uncertain. Even, well before COVID, we've seen a growing disconnect between the infinite growth imperative and the finite resources of our planet, between the financial economy and the real economy, between the wealthy and the poor, between the concept of our gross domestic product and the well-being of people, between technology and social needs, between governance and the voicelessness of people. Now, I'm not saying that schools are responsible for all of that, but I think we should not underestimate the impact, the values, the attitudes, the skills, the knowledge of people have that we promote in our schools. Technology and virus can fundamentally disrupt our social and economic structures, but the implications are never predetermined. The important thing, it's always the nature of our collective responses to those disruptions that are going to determine their outcomes. What we mobilize in response, and this is where ESD is so fundamental. Mission 4.7 sort of hits the nail, really. The SDGs offer the answer to this. Now, they are sort of the missing piece of the globalization puzzle. They are the glue that hold together the centrifugal forces in this age of accelerations. But again, it's going to be educators who hold the key to what extent the SDGs become a real contract between, citizens. And that's really, I think, where the promise of ESD lies. Now, the one thing that I think we all figured out, and Monica, you asked the question of, do we need to fundamentally rethink education? Clearly, education is no longer about teaching students something. It's about helping them develop a reliable compass and the tools to navigate through this, volatile, complex, increasingly ambiguous world. Now, success in schooling today is about building curiosity now, opening minds. It's about building compassion, opening hearts. And it's about courage. Can we mobilize our cognitive, social, and emotional resources to actually take action? And I think these are also going to be our biggest bets against the biggest threats of our times. Now, the ignorance, the closed mind, hate, the closed heart, and fear, the enemy of agency. We simply live in this world in which the kind of things that are easy to teach, maybe easy to test, have also become easy to digitize, to automate. They are evaporating from our labor markets. Now, we know how to educate second-class robots, people who are very good at repeating what we tell them. Actually, in the age of artificial intelligence, we need to think a lot harder about what it means to be human. Education, the society around us is that product of education. I'm not saying, that state-of-the-art knowledge is not going to remain important, but the world no longer rewards us just for what we know. Now, Google knows everything. It rewards us for what we can do and what we do with what we know. Science isn't just about, physics and chemistry. It's about, can you think like a scientist? Can you use the tools of science to understand and change the world? History is not just about, remembering names and dates. It's about, can you think like an historian? Now, do you understand how the narrative of a society has emerged, how it developed, how it advanced, and sometimes how it unravels and the context change? What does it mean for today's world? Schools are very good at breaking down big problems into small bits and pieces and then training students how to solve those pieces. Now, but the world today creates value by synthesizing those different pieces, basically to make connections between ideas that usually seem unrelated, by connecting the dots where the next big idea and innovation is going to come from. And exactly that requires being familiar with, and also receptive to the knowledge of other fields, to be able to think across the boundaries of school subjects, to bring people together. And that brings me to the next topic. In today's schools, we are very, very good at teaching students to learn individually. And at the end of the school year, we certify the individual achievements. But the more interdependent the world becomes, the more we need to think about, great collaborators, great orchestrators, people who understand how other people think and work, whether as a scientist or as an artist, how other people live in different cultures and different traditions. People who can live with themselves, who can live with others, who can live with the planet. In our latest PISA assessment, we looked at this in what we call global competency. And it was sobering to see how limited, our education is preparing people for this. In the past, schools were, technological islands, with technology usually conserving existing educational practice rather than transforming it. And in the future, schools need to be so much better to use technology to liberate learning from past conventions and to connect learners and learning in much more powerful ways. And again, I think this crisis has shown what is possible in this field. It has moved those kinds of ideas from the margins to the center. And finally, the past was divided. You had teachers and content divided by subjects and students, separated by expectations about their futures that we project very early on into their lives. Schools are very good to keep students inside and the rest of the world outside. Often we see a lack of engagement of families, a reluctance of teachers to look outwards to the next school, of schools to look out to the next country. The future needs to be a lot more connected, a lot more integrated. Schools is not, a public service, a public policy product. It's only going to succeed if it's a whole of society project. And I think that's what we see here in this panel. Thank you.